You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome back to The Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell.
And co-host Keelan Harvey.
Your local mortgage experts right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, October 13th show. It is a great day to talk money, and that's what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, so you can have a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to connect you with the guest or answer any questions that you may have. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio again, welcoming back Carrie Foley with Berkshire, Hathaway HomeServices, Northwest Real Estate. And we're going to talk about today top deal killers in inspection and appraisals and how to prep your home for sales success. Carrie, welcome back in studio.
Hi, thank you.
And a little bit about Carrie. Carrie is a Northwest native, but spent several years overseas in Southeast Asia before returning to Seattle to attend the UW. After purchasing her first home at the age of 19, she fell in love with the real estate sales process and pursued a career in real estate. 16 years in the business, she is the #1 agent in her office and #7 company-wide for her annual production. Carrie tries to maintain some semblance of a work-life balance by spending time with her 2 kids and traveling domestic and internationally as much as possible.
So, Carrie, how to prep your home for sales success. And I know we've pumped the brakes a little bit. It's still a seller's market, though. And I'm sure there's still somebody out there that thinks they can just put a sign in their yard and put their home up for sale. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of properly preparing your home, not only with having a great agent like yourself, but just the home itself. What does that look like?
Yeah, you're right. Certainly our market has experienced a little bit of a shift. But just to get to some perspective, we are still in a seller's market, right? It's still a fantastic real estate market in the Puget Sound area. But we do kind of feel like maybe our peak of sales activity kind of did happen back in April and May of this year. Just some relative numbers in the entire MLS, we probably had 2.8 months of inventory back in May. We're now seeing about 3.5 months of inventory. Wow. Now, a balanced market is about 4 to 4.5 months of inventory. So we are still below that. So still a fantastic market. But yes, we have all felt a little bit of a shift. Like you mentioned, things aren't flying off the market as quickly as they were. Where we were experiencing multiple offer bidding wars, waived inspections, a lot of waived contingencies, we're now getting back more towards a normal balanced market where buyers are taking a little bit more time to view all the available inventory to make their decision, and they're having their inspections again. So here we are with now having to prep for these home buying inspections. So the importance in prepping then prior to listing your home is to be prepared for that upcoming inspection, knowing that a buyer is very likely now to have a structural inspection and to, wherever possible, try and do some of those repairs up front to sort of mitigate any issues that may come up during a buyer's inspection.
Yeah, great advice, Carrie. And what about common things that you see that sellers might overlook when they're trying to get their home ready to present it and put it on the market?
Honestly, sometimes it just comes down to basic cleaning. Buyers right now are looking for clean homes in good condition. So, everybody's probably aware of the minor repairs and stuff that need to be done. They know that, the dishwasher needs to be repaired or whatnot. But a lot of times what a seller overlooks is just that general cleaning the windows, cleaning the roof and the gutters, or even, taking a look at things in the attic or crawl space, the kind of stuff that you're not looking at on a daily basis. So all of that kind of stuff is really first impression stuff, landscape maintenance, pressure washing of the driveway and walkways, exterior paint type things that, maybe you don't really think of as repairs off the top of your head. But it's those little maintenance items that's really going to make your home stand out.
Yeah, and I mean, we've all heard first impression is a lasting impression.
Yeah,
So it's
agreed.
no different when it comes to what your home and when somebody's coming in and having that first impression.
Absolutely.
Carrie, what do you think about like specific items that might cause some issues with the inspection that somebody could have easily addressed beforehand?
The first thing that comes to mind that pops up on nearly every inspection is servicing the furnace.
Oh, yeah.
It's recommended that you have your furnace serviced, some people do it every year, but
Yeah.
at least every 2 years. But it's, honestly, it's one of those home maintenance items that I think more often than not, homeowners kind of lack on a little bit.
Yeah.
But it comes up in every inspection. And the reason I say it's one of those relatively easy things to address up front is that it's relatively inexpensive, very easy to schedule, and during a home inspection, your actual home inspector is not going to open up the furnace and inspect all of the components. That's why it's one of those things that always pops up on inspection reports and buyers always ask for, because their structural inspection wasn't able to look at the components of the furnace.
Okay.
They just look at the service record. And if
Yeah.
it hasn't been properly serviced in the last year or two, it's going to be called out almost every time by an inspector and a home buyer.
Yeah.
So that's one of those relatively easy, quick, inexpensive things that you can just check the box, get it done. A buyer's not going to then ask for it or try and negotiate something further. And it's one of those things that actually creates peace of mind, overall peace of mind for a buyer. Like I said, buyers are looking for homes that are clean and well maintained. If you have a good service record on your furnace, just psychologically for a buyer, they're going to go, okay, this seller is on top of it. They're doing the things they need
That's
to
why
do.
you detail the car before you go to sell it.
Exactly.
Because it's the same
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Ah.
Or
Yeah,
a,
no, it's
maintenance, a maintenance record on a car, right? If you have a big file in a car, you're like, ooh, these people take
Yes.
care of their...
That's a better example.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I was
comparison.
thinking. Yeah.
Right? And then
Yeah.
you're maybe willing to pay top dollar for that car
Yeah.
if they can show good maintenance records. So, exactly. Great analogy.
So, Carrie, what about some big deal killers when it comes to buyers in this market right now? Because before they just had to go with the big deal killers. They
Right,
wanted to,
right.
get a
Take what
house.
they
They have
could
to
get.
kind of figure it out. Yeah.
Yes. It's usually related to water. We live in kind of a wet climate. And so it's usually something in the attic or the crawl space because, again, homeowners aren't poking their head up in the attic and the crawl space very often,
Yes.
if at all. And so a lot of times there could be even just a minor roof leak or, inadequate air circulation in the attic. Could be just an overflowing downspout that gives you some water in the crawl space. Those kinds of small things most homeowners and home sellers don't know
Yeah.
until that inspection comes and the inspector sticks his head up there and sees that we've got, mold in the attic or we've got standing water in the crawl space.
Well, we'll say Keelan's better half, just like me. We wouldn't be going up there. So Keelan would go up in the attic and so would Dave.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not going to debate that.
Yeah. So a good idea to take a look in your attic and crawl space before you go on the market so that we're avoiding any big surprises there.
Yeah, water can be nasty. It's going to find a way, and there's a lot more damage than might not meet the surface if you're not careful.
Right.
Something we see too, Carrie, is on the appraisal end. Of course, in the mortgage business, we order appraisals, we get them back, and we see things that can really hold up a transaction. So let's say we get through the structural inspection, and then now we get an appraisal, and something comes up on that appraisal report. What do you think? I mean, often, what is that?
Sure. So
And why is that? Why would an appraiser come up with something when an inspector did not?
Yeah, good question.
Right. So you may have a buyer and seller that agree after a structural inspection that there's nothing major that needs to be addressed. Maybe the buyer plans on doing a full remodel anyway, so he's not so concerned about, the exposed wiring, in the basement or whatnot. So a buyer and seller could be satisfied with the structural inspection, but the appraiser's job is a little bit different. The appraiser is looking at mostly health and safety items. So even though a buyer knows he's not going to stick his finger, in the exposed electrical, an appraiser's job is to make sure those kinds of things are wrapped up. So my recommendation would be when you're working with an excellent real estate broker, they're already going to know those items that are most likely called out by appraisers,
Yep.
and we can take care of those items up front.
Yeah. And so for negotiation, let's talk about for on the buyer side when they're needing to go in and negotiate during the inspection contingency process. What are your tips there?
Sure. I guess my recommendation to buyers would be don't go in asking for every single item on the list. You know, a good structural inspector is going to come up with everything.
Yes.
Even all the little things, right?
When I always say if they want to know something good about the house, don't ask the inspector, ask the listing agent.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
I like that. There you go.
So don't go in there asking for, 100 items. Again, your real estate broker can help consult you on which items are really the most important or the most likely to be addressed by a seller. So I think if you can just start out with a good solid list of items, you're more likely to succeed in getting the seller to agree to those items.
So, Carrie, on the flip side of that coin, is it a good idea to sell as is, not do anything at all?
Sure. Short answer to that, I would say, is generally no. Again, I'll kind of go back to this idea, this sort of psychological mindset of a buyer. So they come in to a home and they see a minor repair that in reality may only cost a couple $100 to address. But in a buyer's mind, they're going to almost instantly extrapolate that to thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
The sort of the intrinsic value of this repair. So as a seller, if you're thinking, well, gosh, really, a buyer could put a couple $100 into this and it would be just fine.
Yeah.
But that's not what a buyer's mindset is. So for a seller, I would say it's more valuable to go ahead and put the couple $100 into this repair or that repair to show, top value to a buyer.
Yeah.
I think in the long run, it'll pay off.
Well, it's funny that you say that because as is, when I see as is, I think there's something really, big that's wrong with that property, as you just stated. And I'll instruct my buyer for the financing to make sure that it's not something that needs to be a cash or a rehab loan. So what do buyers need to expect when they see as is?
Sure. Well, I would say definitely have an inspection. Right.
Okay.
You need to know what you're getting into. Because again, like you mentioned, when you see as is, you almost assume like what's wrong. There must be something wrong. So definitely have a thorough structural inspection. But then I would just encourage buyers to do their research. Again, they see this minor repair that in their mind might be thousands of dollars, but really isn't.
Yes.
So if the seller's not going to repair something, do your homework. Ask around with some contractors. Again, your real estate broker probably has some excellent resources for what this kind of repair might cost. So be realistic with yourself in what it's actually going to cost. But then again, you'll really want to work closely with your real estate broker or lender to understand what items could cause hiccups with the appraiser. So if we already know the seller is not willing to do any repairs, we want to make sure we can see this through a successful closing and past appraisal. So we'll want to know up front if there's going to be some red flags for the appraiser because we may need to work around those hiccups as well.
Yeah, love that.
Carrie, what do you think about sellers doing kind of their own inspection and sharing it with buyers in this market? Has it changed at all, or what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. We don't see that as much anymore. Pros and cons to that. Certainly in a very fast-paced market where you're expecting multiple offers, it's fantastic for a buyer if the seller has provided an inspection report up front, because that way they've got to look at an inspection report before making their offer, and they can make a good, strong offer without that inspection contingency for competing purposes. I guess for a buyer, though, also keep in mind that was a home inspector the seller hired. Every inspector is a little bit different. So, be aware that maybe if you had an inspection with a different inspector, they may come up with a few different items. So, just take it with a grain of salt a little bit. Definitely look at when that inspection was done. Was it done 3 months ago? Or was it done 3 days ago?
Yeah.
Conditions can change.
Yeah.
So overall, I think not a bad idea for sellers to have a pre-inspection. Although remember that if a seller has a pre-inspection, they now have knowledge of, any defects in the home that,
At least they now have the knowledge ahead of time, right? Before it gets into that negotiation space, which can be a lot
could
more
give
expensive.
them an opportunity to make repairs before they go on the market, or at least prepare themselves or price accordingly.
Love that. Carrie, thank you so much for coming back in. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And coming up next on the Money Hour, a hot topic in today's market, what's happening in the condo market. I have our expert, Holly Fern, with Lynn Mack Commercial right here at 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.